In this lesson, I'll talk to you about adjectives in English. Adjectives are words that describe the qualities and states of being of nouns. They can also describe the quantity of nouns. Adjectives can do more than just modify nouns. Adjectives can act as a subject complement. In this case, there is a linking verb between the subject and the adjective. When this happens, the adjective is said to be functioning as a predicative adjective. In the course of this lesson, we'll make a distinction between predicative adjectives and attributive adjectives. Predicative adjectives are also called predicate adjectives or predicate nominatives. We'll talk more about predicative adjectives in the course of this lesson. What I want you to know about adjectives is that adjectives can either act as pre-modifiers or they can act as subject complements. When they act as pre-modifiers, adjectives come before nouns. But when they act as subject complements, they come after a linking verb. We'll find out more about these in the course of this video lesson. At this juncture, I want you to understand that we'll look at types of adjectives. The reason why we're looking at the types of adjectives is to enable us know when to use a particular kind of adjective. There are different types of adjectives. We'll look at them one after the other. The first one we're looking at is interrogative adjective. An interrogative adjective is used to ask questions. The questions are always about specific persons, places, or things. Apart from interrogative adjectives, we also have demonstrative adjectives. Demonstrative adjectives are used to show the relative physical position or moments in time of the nouns or pronouns that they are used with. What I mean is that if I say that car, it's demonstrative because that indicates that the car is far from me. Because if the car were to be close to me, I would have said this car. So such adjectives are used to indicate relative physical positions. Distributive adjectives, on the other hand, refer to specific things out of a group. For example, each, either. Numeral adjectives, on the other hand, refer to number adjectives or adjectives that indicate quantity. They are adjectives of number. And numeral adjectives include cardinals, ordinals, and multiplicatives. So they can be definite or indefinite. Adjectives of quantity indicate how many. They help to group nouns or pronouns together or tell us how much of a quantity of something there is. So they are also called quantitative adjectives. Next, we are going to look at proper adjectives. Proper adjectives are adjectives that are derived from proper nouns. For example, from the word Nigeria, we can derive Nigerian as a proper adjective. Consider the sentence, Shakespeare wrote many plays about kings and queens. I can derive a proper adjective by saying that by using it as something like Shakespearean poet, rather Shakespearean drama, using the name Shakespeare as a proper adjective to derive the word Shakespearean. If I say Chinese food, I'm using the word Chinese derived from China as a proper adjective. Possessive adjectives indicate possession. They indicate ownership. They show ownership. They show possession. Examples of possessive adjectives include my, its, your. One thing you should know about possessive adjectives is that they have the same structure as possessive pronouns. So possessive pronouns are used as possessive adjectives when they occur before a noun. So they indicate possession and they usually act as pre-modifiers. So remember, possessive adjectives indicate possession or ownership. They show that something owns something. Now, or rather, someone or something owns something. Descriptive adjectives describe. They talk about the quality. They describe quality rather than, or rather, contrasting them with limiting adjectives. You will discover that descriptive adjectives are adjectives that describe. They tell us more about a noun or about the pronoun that they modify. They describe them, they express their quality. Now, indefinite adjectives are like indefinite pronouns. They do not make specific reference. If somebody describe them as being unspecific, and I think that person has a point there. Compound adjectives are derived by compounding words. We usually use hyphens to identify compound adjectives. However, not all compound adjectives require hyphens. We can find cases where you have a proper, or rather, where you have a compound adjective without being hyphenated. It's important to note that compound adjectives take hyphens most of the time, but not all of the time. Examples of compound adjectives include ice cold, time saving, one page. For example, send me a one-page summary. One page there is used as a compound adjective and it acts as a pre-modifier, pre-modifying the noun summary. There are different types of compound adjectives. We have some compound adjectives that are derived by the addition of a number to a noun, for example, a 2-week break. We have another type that can be used, or rather, that can be derived by using italics like pro bono work. We also have the ones that use quotation marks like get out of now, time, and things like that. Now, exclamatory adjectives are used for exclamations. They are used to derive exclamatory sentences. The most common exclamatory adjective is the word what, W-H-A-T. For example, what lovely flowers. What tools, or rather, what fools. Now, let me talk about emphasizing adjectives. They are used for emphasis. They are used to emphasize or intensify. Limiting adjectives are worth talking about. They deserve our attention. So we'll spend some time talking about limiting adjectives. They are adjectives that restrict the meaning of nouns. They don't describe, they restrict nouns or pronouns. They don't describe traits. Examples include demonstratives, interrogatives, and possessives, including articles. All these are types of limiting adjectives. They do not describe. Take note, limiting adjectives do not describe. They single out or state that a noun belongs to a specific group without describing or mentioning the qualities of the noun. I told you earlier that we'll talk about rather predicative adjectives and attributive adjectives. Predicative adjectives are adjectives that come after the verb. They act as subject complements, whereas attributive adjectives act as premodifiers. They come before the noun that they modify. For example, if I say the book is expensive, I'm talking about predicative. If I say the expensive book is attributive. Adjectives can also be inherent or non-inherent. We also have gradable and non-gradable adjectives. Gradable adjectives can be compared, while non-gradable adjectives can't be compared. Adjectives exhibit degrees of comparison. So we have degrees of comparison of adjectives. Usually in comparing adjectives, we have 3 degrees. These degrees are the positive, the comparative, and the superlative degrees of comparison. It is important to understand these three degrees of comparison in our study of adjectives. For example, the adjective sad can be compared by the word sadder, and superlatively can be compared by the word saddest. The same thing applies to the word short. For the positive form, we have short. For the comparative degree, we have shorter. And for the superlative degree, we have shortest. So adjectives can have positive degrees, comparative degrees, and superlative degrees. Next, we are going to talk about the order of adjectives. It is important to understand order of adjectives, especially when we have more than one adjective. The usual order is opinion, size, quality, age, color, origin, material, and purpose. It is important that you review the slides on the order of adjectives. I advise that you go back and watch those slides, rewind or scroll back and watch those slides on order of adjectives. In the next segment of this video lesson, we are going to be looking at pronouns. A pronoun is one of the most essential parts of written and spoken communication. Without pronouns, awkward constructions and cluttered up expressions are inevitable, as will perpetuate the repetition of names of things. To enhance your communication, or rather your communication skills, you have to understand what a pronoun is, the types of pronoun, and their uses. Watch this video with purpose, and pronouns will no longer be a mystery to you, because my objective in this lesson is to look at pronouns. So I'll delve into the topic proper by looking at the kinds of pronouns. The first kind of pronoun that we'll look at in our detailed analysis will be personal pronouns. Although there are different kinds of pronouns, we'll start with personal pronouns. Personal pronouns refer to particular subject or object. A personal pronoun is used as a simple replacement for the proper name of a person. Each of the English personal pronouns shows us the grammatical persons, gender, number, and case of the noun it replaces. They allow us speak and write with economy by avoiding cumbersome repetitions of proper nouns. Personal pronouns can also be classified as objective personal pronouns, subjective personal pronouns, possessive personal pronouns, and reflexive personal pronouns. In terms of subject and object pronouns, subject pronouns are pronouns that can replace subject nouns, and object pronouns are pronouns that can replace object nouns. Examples of nouns that can function as subjects include he, she, they, it, and the others. Object pronouns are pronouns that act as the object of a verb. They replace object nouns. For example, me, him, and them. Remember, objective pronouns act as the object of a verb, whereas subjective pronouns or subject pronouns act as the subject of a verb. Do not forget that the subject usually is the one that acts as the performer of the action in a sentence where there is an action verb, and while the object is the recipient of the action where there is an action verb. Reflexive pronouns are pronouns that refer back to the subject. They are co-referential with the subject of the verb. They are used to refer to the action that is done by the subject. They refer back to the subject. For example, myself, yourself, himself are examples of reflexive pronouns. If I say John did it himself, himself is reflexive, and it's referring back to the subject, John. Intensive pronouns or emphatic pronouns are used for emphasis. They are structurally like reflexive pronouns. The only difference is in terms of their function. Intensive pronouns are somewhat juxtaposed with the noun or pronoun that they emphasize. So structurally, reflexive pronouns and emphatic pronouns are the same. They only differ in function. Reflexive pronouns refer back to the subject, whereas intensive pronouns are used for emphasis. So an example of intensive use is I myself was there. But for reflexive, I would say I was there myself. Demonstrative pronouns. We're going to talk about demonstrative pronouns. They are used to point out, to separate, to refer to things that are somewhat in isolation from the speaker. So that is used to point to something that is far, while this is used to point to something that is close. Relative pronouns are pronouns used to introduce clauses. They introduce clauses. For example, who, which, whom. These are examples of relative pronouns. Reciprocal pronouns, on the other hand, are used to express mutual relationship. They express mutual relationship. They indicate mutual action. For example, each other. They love each other. That means the love is reciprocal. Interrogative pronouns are used to ask questions. They are pronouns that begin questions. Examples of interrogative pronouns are whose, which, what, and whom. I don't know if you noticed that most of the interrogative pronouns can also act as relative pronouns. Depends on the construction. Some words that act as relative pronouns are also used as interrogative pronouns. Possessive pronouns show ownership. They indicate possession. They look more like possessive adjectives, but actually possessive adjectives are possessive pronouns in adjectival function. Possessive pronouns show ownership. For example, my, our, yours, theirs, hers, his. All these are examples of possessive pronouns. Indefinite pronouns do not make particular reference. They are also called universal pronouns. They do not refer to any entity in particular. They refer to things generally. For example, if I say someone or anyone, everyone, I'm talking about indefinite pronouns. I'm not being specific, so indefinite pronouns are not specific. In fact, you can describe them as non-specific pronouns. Numerical pronouns have to do with number. For example, if I say I need 4, 4 there is a numerical pronoun. Look at the sentence, 5 joined the queue. 5 there is a numerical pronoun. Now, stay focused. I understand the fact that you've been through 2 lessons